I remember it like it was yesterday. I ventured out to get pictures of my two little boys. Justin was close to 3 and Curtis was about 6 months. And of course, I dressed them in their matching tartan vests, as any good mom would do, and headed to a photo center in a large retail store. And the boys smiled on cue, and I was a proud mom. But as I stood by the cash register to pay the clerk, I turned around and Justin was gone. I frantically looked around the area, but I couldn't find him anywhere. And of course, what does every mom do but panic? Panic set in, and people started calling throughout the store, what's his name? They're calling for Justin. It felt like hours, but honestly, probably within just a few minutes, the store manager found him on a mechanical ride at the entrance of the store between the double doors. There's my precious son, who is one of the most valuable people in my life, had gone missing. But what was lost? Well, thank goodness it had been found. Fast forward 15 years later, and that same boy got lost again. He became disconnected from our family. He wasn't the only one who got lost. I lost my grip on who I was as a mom, as a wife, a teacher, and a leader at that time. See, the things that defined me had let me down. I was in the middle of an identity crisis. Chances are that you too have experienced some significant loss in your life, which have led you to an identity crisis. In fact, I would suggest the whole world is in an identity crisis. From young to old, people are trying to find themselves. What does it mean to be human? What is the purpose of life? These are critical questions, and identity speaks to the core of who we think we are. See, identity is how you define yourself, and it's often attached to the things that give you value and give you worth. Well, sadly, we define ourselves by our relationships, perhaps, like family, our stuff, our status, or even the things we've done or the things we haven't done. Do we measure up? Is the ultimate identity question. These are questions of identity that we all ask. And the truth is, if we're looking in the wrong mirror, we'll get the wrong answer. You'll only see a distorted view of yourself at best. So where do you find a perfect mirror? Where do you find a true reflection of who you are? A mirror that will truly tell you who you are. Well, Jesus, he is the perfect mirror. Jesus showed us who we're to be. I want to take you on a journey in this series and through my book Found by sharing true life stories from my own life and others, and provide some biblical teaching to guide us along the path. Well, here's a little of my identity journey. It was awards day. I was in grade 2. I remember sitting on the grass. Actually, it was very itchy. And I was sitting in, the perfect little lineup and waiting for this thing called awards day to take place. Of course, I didn't know what it meant. At that age, I just sat there wondering if my name would be called. Would I win a prize? Would I get an award? Had I performed well enough? Had I met the mark? Well, as I sat there watching other students go to the front and receive their awards, I was literally on the edge of my seat in the itchy grass and hoping that my name would be called. But they never called my name. Well, I concluded that I didn't measure up. I didn't realize that this belief would stick in my little brain and become part of my identity. See, giving awards, it's not a bad thing. But somehow I linked my identity, my value, my worth to receiving an award that day. See, if I had received one, well, then maybe I'd be good enough. Maybe it would mean that I was special and I had purpose. This is a core need for every one of us. We want to know that we measure up. We want to know that we've met the mark somehow and that we have value and that we have worth. See, this not measuring up thinking leads to, well, 2 things I would suggest. Either try harder or escape. So where are you on that spectrum? Are you the try harder type? Much of my life has been shaped by that strategy of trying harder. If I could prove to myself and others that I could do many things, then maybe I'd measure up. This led to, unfortunately, years of striving, searching for approval and using achievement as my benchmark. But that is an exhausting way to live because, well, the cycle never ends. I shared with you that our son got lost again later to a life of addiction. And the truth is, we were actually losing all three of our kids to a lifestyle of partying and destructive choices. Our two sons and our daughter, we're all going down this broken path. And my identity crisis, well, you just want to say it was in full bloom. And it was clear that I wasn't measuring up as a mom. I mean, who was I if I was a failure as a mom? My confidence as a teacher and a leader was quickly deteriorating. I believe lies that were taking me down a very dark path. And we all have the times when we go through times where we grieve loss, right? And sadness is certainly a part of our experience. And it often strikes at the heart of who we believe we are and who we're meant to be. See, our identity is shattered when our value and worth come into question. So what about you? What comes to mind that has caused you to question your value or your worth? Maybe your hopes and dreams of being married or having a family haven't yet happened. Maybe you're wondering if they ever will. Maybe you feel trapped by your singleness or childlessness. Or perhaps it's the color of your skin or where you were born that serves as the most defining marker of who you are. Does your health or maybe athleticism or unhealth give you your identity? Does your job or lack of a job define you? Is it your appearance? Maybe it's your education, your relationships, or your sexuality, or perhaps the abuse from your past. You get the point. There's no end to the list of the factors that try to shape our identity, those things that try to define us. At the heart of the matter, we place our identity in what we do or we don't do, what's been done to us, the stuff that we own or our accomplishments, rather than who we are as human beings. See, our standard is essentially ourselves or others, but we miss the mark by failing to account for how God measures us. We don't understand who we are and how God actually sees us, and we ultimately measure ourselves by the wrong standard. We're all trying to find ourselves, to discover who we are. And identity relates to our self-image, our self-esteem, and our individuality. It is in essence how we see or define ourselves. Political movements all over the world leverage identity for power and recognition. Protests, court cases, media messages, social media feeds are fueled by people's passion and activism over identity issues. See, identity, it also matters to the creator of the human race. So let's discover what God has to say about your and my identity. I don't know where you are on your journey of identity when you picked up the book Found or started watching this series, but let's start at the very beginning. At the very beginning, out of the mysterious cosmos, God spoke to a scribe to explain the origin of the human race. And he simply says this: let us make human beings in our image, make them reflecting our nature. There it is. You and I have been given our identity by the one who created us. We've been made in the image and the likeness of God, and we're designed, imagine this, to reflect him. I knew what it was to expect my kids to carry my image or reflect the likeness of their parents somewhat, but God went so much further. Listen to what he said. Let us make human beings in our image, make them reflecting our nature so that they can be responsible for the fish in the sea, the birds in the air, the cattle, and yes, earth itself, and every animal that moves on the face of the earth. God created human beings. He created them godlike, reflecting God's nature. He created them male and female. God bless them, prosper, reproduce, fill earth, take charge, be responsible for fish in the sea and birds in the air, for every living thing that moves on the face of the earth. I love that version that comes from the Message. Our identity matters because it came to us from God. No wonder questions of identity nag at us. No wonder we are fixated on our image. No wonder we're driven to establish that we matter, that we measure up, and that we have value and worth. We're actually hardwired to connect to the God of the universe, to something far grander than we could ever imagine. We were created to be like God in both his character and nature. So where do we begin? Well, our journey to understand our identity always involves looking into a mirror. At some level, we know who we are by what we decide we see in that mirror. See, the God of the universe is asking to be our mirror. He said, let us make human beings in our image, make them reflecting our nature. So how much does identity matter to God? Well, it matters so much that God put skin on in the person of Jesus and came to live on the earth and show us who we are and what our true identity actually looks like. He showed us what it actually means to be both human and to be a reflection of God. It's amazing. Reflecting on my faith journey and my time pastoring and teaching others, I consistently see that we don't know who we are. How we see ourselves dramatically affects how we live our lives and how we live out our faith. Maybe you're watching this and you're unsure if you identify as a Christian or if Christian is simply a title you claimed due to your family heritage. When I use the word Christian, I'm not talking about religion, although it is that. I'm not even talking about aligning ourselves with a set of beliefs, although it is that too. I'm talking about putting one's personal trust in the person and the work of Jesus Christ. I'm talking about someone who has a personal relationship with God through trusting in what Jesus did for them on the cross and through his resurrection. You see, to be a Christian is to be a follower of Jesus. It is to surrender one's whole life to the leadership of Jesus. And in this series, you're going to encounter real life stories of people who have done that. And they found their true identity and purpose because of it. See, when you surrender yourself to the one who made you and the one who knows everything about you, our loving God expressed in the person of Jesus, well, the natural result is discovering your true identity and purpose. And I believe it's the only way to live fully alive. Well, during a difficult period with our children, I often would wake up at 3 a.m. For months, I dismissed this pattern due to stress and worry. Isn't that just what every mom does, right? But then I was reminded by a friend that the Lord might be wanting to speak to me in those early hours. So instead of resisting the 3 a.m. wake-up call, I got into the habit of getting up. I'd go out into our family room and I'd sit on my couch and I simply asked the Lord what he wanted to say to me. Well, in those quiet hours of the morning, I heard him speak, and this mainly happened through scripture as I opened my Bible. But there was a moment in time when I felt tangibly the presence of God. He came very close to me and he whispered to my heart. And during one particular cry for help, I heard him say these very simple words, "Lorie, look at me. Look at me." See, those simple words, they caught my attention. I knew then that no matter what happened in my family, I could live my life with joy and peace if I kept my eyes on Jesus and if I would let him define me. Not my circumstances, not the choices of others, not by comparison, just him. See, he knew me and he knew each one of our kids. And he had good plans for them, and he would call them to their true identity and purpose. I could trust God with my family. And Jesus says to you, look at me. I will tell you who you really are. I'll tell you who I created you to be. This is what God says to every single human being, every person on this planet, from the beginning of time, is made in the image of God and is designed to reflect him in this world. Here it is again, God's original design for us. Remember the words from Genesis, in that first chapter, verse 26? Let us make human beings in our image. Make them reflecting our nature. See, the sad truth is that we've lost our true identity back in the garden at the very beginning with the first human beings, but we're going to unpack that a little later. For now, here's what I want you to know. This is why Jesus came. He came to restore what was lost in the garden, to enable us to find our true identity again. And sadly, too many of us miss this truth. I know I did. If Christianity is just a ticket to heaven, we'll miss all that's available to us in this life right now. And then we somehow settle for a powerless Christianity that leaves us missing out. We go through this half awake kind of living, not knowing who we really are. And this is such a travesty. And it's actually why I wrote the message of Found. I believe it's so critical. It's my desire that you experience the freedom, the joy, and the power that comes when you discover how to live your life in your true identity. Because what was lost in the garden has been found in Jesus. So what's happened in your life that has caused you to believe lies about who you are? Is it the lie that you don't measure up like mine was? Perhaps it's the lie that you're not lovable or you're not forgivable, that you aren't seen perhaps, or that you don't matter. Well, since my grade 2 award day experience, I haven't sought after awards. I don't even enjoy competition environments, to be honest. It's not because awards or competition are bad in themselves. It's just that my value and worth aren't connected to them. The more I look at God and I let Him define me, the freer I am to simply follow His lead and let Him do the work of refining me and defining who I am. See, my greatest hope is that you will discover your true identity simply by looking at Jesus, the one, the only one who can tell us and show us who we are meant to be. See, Jesus is a true reflection of who we are and the purpose for which we have been designed. He invites us into a personal relationship with Him, with God the Father, to be part of His family, an adopted child, and a sibling of Jesus. See, this spiritual adoption, it actually defines us, and we must become intimately familiar with what it means and how it shapes who we are. Well, my hope and my prayer as we journey together are that we will become deeply connected to our identity in Jesus. We'll explore this original good news called the gospel, the most freeing news in the world. You were designed to live loved and to live free because everything you're looking for is found in Jesus. So take time to reflect using the resources provided and read chapter 1 of Found for even more stories and insights. I'll see you in session 2.